The main program is helping soulful spiritual entrepreneurs, a healer or a coach or a health and wellness practitioner to take their business to the point where it's at 10, 12,000 a month. I just really look at it as like it's impactful. Honestly, like we're in this to change lives. And so it's your responsibility to put yourself out there. Not only are you doing, yourself a disservice by not putting yourself out there, but you're doing those that you're meant to impact and help a disservice as well.
Welcome to the Past Life Awakening podcast. Today, my beautiful guest is Erica Carrico. She is a soul business success coach. She helps people create prosperous, soul-aligned businesses and live their soul purpose. So welcome to the podcast, Erica.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Great. So can we start off by telling us about your book? What's it called and what led you to write it?
Yeah, well, my book is called Awaken Your Purpose. And I think, I guess what led me to write it, it was sort of, I guess, from a more spiritual perspective, this book was like the culmination of, I suppose, my work and my purpose here on earth. And I felt like we might get into this later, but I was diagnosed with kidney cancer back in 2016. And I really felt like I needed to get this book out and I needed to be doing this work before I do make my transition, and my life did not feel complete. So this book is really, it's sort of, I think it's my life's work. It's really helping other people to awaken to their purpose. What are you here for? What are your divine gifts? What is your original medicine? I truly believe that we all came here for a reason as souls, and it is not to slave away into some 9 to 5 and building somebody else's dream. I really do believe that we have our own work that we're meant to share with the world. And through my cancer journey, I learned very clearly that my purpose is to help other people to awaken to theirs and to be able to get their work out into the world so that they can have the impact that they're meant to have.
I love that. So Awakening Your Purpose, subtitled 28 Days to Discover Your Life Purpose, Identify Your Dream Business, and Take Your First Steps to a Prosperous Life. So there's an awakening, but I'm always curious about what it is that people awaken from first. And so I know you've got a corporate background and an educational background. So what's your educational background?
Yeah, I have a degree, an undergrad degree in psychology. I have a master's degree in business, but focusing more in the not-for-profit industry. So I did spend a lot of years in corporate recruitment, and after experiencing total burnout in that field, I took what I thought was going to be the safe route. Right, I did not start my business, even though I wanted to, but I was convinced to take out a $60,000 loan, go back to graduate school at 30 years old and get a master's degree in nonprofit management and take a six-figure pay cut and start earning $29,000 a year. So I thought that that was like the right thing to do. Hindsight is 2020, obviously. But that's a lot of my background. And 5 years after that, was diagnosed with cancer, and I started my business on the back end of the cancer diagnosis.
Yeah, that's great. It's really interesting. A lot of people that I work with that do my advanced training programs have those transferable skills are really useful. So is that something, did you have like a spiritual background as a kid? Were you kind of into the woo-woo kind of a thing? Or is that something that I was always sort of looking forward to the conventional corporate world and then suddenly I had a radical change?
No, I definitely was very connected, I think, as a child. And I was always living up in the clouds, and I felt so connected to the earth, and everything just felt like magic to me. And I have this heart birthmark on my hip, and my mom told me that I was kissed by angels and that I was here to live a special life. And so I really, truly believed that. And I always felt very spiritually connected. But I think, like so many of us, we go through life and we're hardened and trauma happens and we start to feel the pressure of society to earn a living and to get a job and to pay the bills. And, we were getting married. I was getting married and I was told, well, you can't start a business and you definitely can't go into like coaching. No one's going to pay you to do that. And we're having kids and we need to have money and we need benefits and we need health insurance. And so, like so many of us, I just really got lost, and I started to buy into the fear and the societal expectations. And that was really when, I felt like so unhappy in my life. I felt so unhappy in my career. I felt like I was wasting my life away. I felt unhappy in my marriage. I was very depressed. I was anxious. There was so much negative self-talk. I was so disconnected from spirit, from myself. And that was when the cancer diagnosis happened. And I think, looking back, it was such a wake-up call and it was such a blessing for me, because it really like woke me up so quick and so powerfully. And I have not looked back.
That's a good point. I think a lot of people do get seduced by or fall into a kind of a slumber in the conventional world,
Yeah.
and they have some pain, but it's a mystery. Like everything actually on the surface looks quite good. I'm doing what I was
Yeah.
supposed to do. It's working. I'm making money. I've got a nice house. Everything is working the way it's supposed to be. And then, but there's that feeling like, why am I not happy? Or
Yeah.
something's missing, or there's a misery. And then it's almost like, and so, can you identify with that feeling? Is that the kind of, and then when you get the diagnosis, that's like the sharp awakening. But if you don't get that, you could easily go for years and years with the simmering discontent and not really do anything about it. And so, I think is that something that you experienced?
Completely. I was in Sydney living in Australia and I was in corporate recruitment. This was back in 2009. And I was depressed and I was anxious. And I remember going to a therapist and I was asking for medication. And the guy, he kind of looked at me and he was like, well, I'm not going to give you medication, but you need to go figure out your life. Why are you discontent? Why are you anxious? Why are you experiencing depression? And that was my first taste. I went and saw a life coach and that was my first taste of coaching. But I think, that was in 2009. I didn't start my business until 2016. So it took me a long time of feeling disconnected and discontent and afraid to step out on my own and afraid to start my own business and afraid of what other people would think and imposter syndrome. Who am I to do this? And there's so many people out there that are going to do this better than me. So I let it hold me back for a good 15 years.
There are stages of awakening and integrating that into your life. I had a similar thing where I had, awakening experiences or things that change your perspective. But then, how do you really make that fit in a practical way in life
Right.
going forward? And so, for people at those stages, and like for me, it was sort of 7 or 8 years from a life-changing experience to having that become a full-time occupation and a different career, like 7 or 8 years. And
Yeah.
so when you are having a Kundalini arising or a big shift somehow, whatever it is, 7 or 8 years sounds like a really long time.
It does.
And but we can be here on the other side saying that it was all part of the process. Patience and persistence is required, and keep going forward with it. It is a marathon, not a sprint, is what I often think. And but there are but also be patient, but also be persistent in taking action. So one of your first actions you mentioned, you took a leap of faith and invested in yourself by hiring a life coach. And so can you tell us a little bit about that and what you learned from it, and it's not and how it then ended up benefiting you, and how you integrated over the years ahead?
Yeah, that was in 2009. So I saw a life coach. I knew that I was in corporate. I knew I was here for something different, but I didn't know what that was. And so I did see a life coach for 6 weeks. I had a background in psychology, but I knew I didn't want to be a counselor or a therapist. And so what was really interesting was when I saw the life coach, I was like, this is it. This is exactly what I want to do. This is perfect. It's going to allow me to write my books and it's going to allow me to work with clients and it's going to allow me to change people's lives, but I'm not going to have to do it in a traditional therapy model. So it was really kind of an awakening for me. But again, it took me 16 years to actually start my own coaching business after that. But I did leave my corporate career. I left Sydney. I spent a year backpacking around the world afterwards, through different developing countries. And on the return of that trip, I knew that I could never go back to corporate. And that's when I was getting married and decided to do the whole master's and go into the not-for-profit industry. But coaching helped me make that big leap and truly got me on a forward motion path of not quite where I should have been. I shot the arrow and I missed the mark, but I was definitely closer in the not-for-profit space than I was in corporate recruitment.
Yeah, I love it. Incidentally, I spent years working in corporate in Sydney,
That is
and
so funny.
isn't it? Yeah, and I spent significant amounts of time in the backpacking circuit and in
Yeah.
places like India, going to meditation retreats, etc., and that kind of thing as well. Like once you go get on a long enough trip of that, you're on some sort of adventure, whether you're
Yeah.
actually continuing to backpack in various countries. but the adventure of consciousness unfolding and the new career, etc. That adventurousness, I think, is really helpful. And so, I mean, did you find that? What were your experiences of travel and just opening you up and breaking down some of the preconceptions and the cultural conditioning that we have? Because I think a lot of people sort of even can be quite critical of, the year off and being self-indulgent, etc. And there's a little part where we can, just relax and enjoy ourselves and take a break and recover from burnout. But there can be a bit more to it. So what are your thoughts on the value of traveling?
Well, most Americans don't travel. We don't take gap years. People couldn't, I was like the black sheep, like, what? You're doing what? I mean, nobody could believe that I was taking time off to travel, and nobody could believe that I was moving to Australia. I mean, I did a lot of sort of non-traditional things. I was definitely the black sheep in my family and in my circle. I was from middle of nowhere, Iowa, small town, Midwest farming community. All my grandparents are teachers and farmers, and no, some of them never even really left the state. So it was very different. But I think for me, it was like, and this is kind of where the book comes into play too. I was really searching with outside of myself, right? Like I was like, what is my purpose here on earth? And there was this whole find my purpose, discover my purpose. And I, for some reason, thought that it was going to be externally. And so I literally backpacked through 50 different countries trying to find myself. And I was doing all these things, like you said, in India. And I was doing yoga classes and plant medicine and working in orphanages in Africa and camping for 6 months through 18 countries in Africa and spending time in small villages. And it was like, I was never going to find my purpose, quote unquote, externally, right? Like that was always within. But I think so much of my story and the reason why I ended up writing that book is because I spend so much time searching for something that was always within and so much money searching also for something that was always within, and I definitely took a lot out of traveling. It shaped me and it changed me in a tremendous way. In so many ways, it shaped my whole life. I married someone from Australia and had kids in a different country but it was never I still never found that fulfillment of what I was looking for. What I was really craving was that connection to myself or that connection to spirit or that the peeling away of the societal expectations that I had really let harden my heart. And I think we can go all around the world and expose ourselves to all kinds of different healing modalities and whatever, but unless we're willing to do the inner work, we're not going to get very far.
Yeah, well, that is one of the things I think travel eventually does. People can go around wanting to like see the sights, and eventually, as you travel longer, it forces you to look within
Yeah.
and to look at yourself. And so, yeah, and it can shape you in ways that you don't necessarily know. So I do appreciate the adventurousness of it as well, and even that willingness to be kind of the black sheep. I mean, and Australians and English people are more inclined to take these gaps, but I think it's
Yeah.
useful for Americans, to yeah, so at least there's an adventurous spirit at work there as well,
Yeah.
which is good to see, you know. And so
Yeah.
with all of that, how did you then integrate all those experiences, or it led you to creating your own business? And
Yeah.
so as you said, there's that process. And so what exactly was that business? And so you were enthusiastic about life coaching, and
Mhm.
coaching can be a one-to-one thing, and then it can be a
Yep.
one-to-many, or it can be a business thing. And so what was that process for you like?
Well, it was easy for me. So since I had a background in corporate recruitment, it was easy for me to kind of start my own business as I called myself a heart-centered career coach, right? So it was a really easy transition. I had coached thousands of people in corporate recruitment, through career changes and whatever. So when I did start my business, that was really what I moved into. However, when I had my cancer diagnosis, I was 36 and I was breastfeeding my youngest baby at the time, and I had a toddler. My marriage was falling apart. I wasn't happy where I was living. I was working full time as the executive director of a not-for-profit organization. So I was making a difference in the world, but I still was like not living my dream. I wasn't doing my work that I was here to do. I was still building somebody else's dream. And I was diagnosed with kidney cancer, which is really rare. Nobody knew why that happened to me. And all the other kidney cancer patients that I was with were like 90-year-old men. And here's me sitting in a urologist's office, and everybody's telling me it was this fluke and nobody knows why it happened and nobody can believe it happened. And that scared me even worse. I knew it happened for a reason. I knew there was a reason why my body had created that disease. And I knew if I didn't get to the root cause of that, I knew that my body would recreate it, right? And so I did not do chemo or radiation. I did have surgery to remove the tumor, and they took out half of my kidney. But from that point on, I had this moment where I was breastfeeding my daughter to sleep one night, the morning or the night before I was supposed to have the surgery. And I just had this realization, it was like an awakening, I think, where I looked down at her and she just, smiled, and she looked up at me and she had these big blue eyes, and I just burst into tears. And it was like, why is cancer happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me now? Like, this should be happening to me as a grandmother, not a mother of a baby and a toddler. And I heard a whisper, like I heard the words remission. And I said out loud, I'm not in remission. I have cancer. I am getting it taken out tomorrow. I am not in remission. And the words whispered back to me and they said, remember your mission. Remember why you're here. And in an instant, it was like, oh my gosh, I had completely forgotten that I am like a spiritual being having a human journey, not the other way around. And that I did come here for a reason and I do have a purpose. And so my work really turned into you teach what you need to learn, right? So my work after that really turned into helping other people to awaken to their divine gifts. Why are you here? Hopefully to awaken without the diagnosis. And, then my business evolved after that. I was a life purpose coach for a long time. That's what my book is based on. But then I had a lot of success. My business turned into this multi-million-dollar company that was really working with people all around the world. So people naturally came to me, hey, can you help me build my business? And then that started working. And anyway, now we do all of it, right? So like I really help people to figure out what their purpose is, what business do they want to start that's aligned with their purpose, and then I help them to build it, but not really for the perspective of like, let me help you earn money, but it's really through me helping the healers to do their work and get their work out into the world. That's really how I'm having even greater impact, right? It's like through them healing other people, it's this ripple effect. And that's really where I feel like my vein is and my spiritual calling.
And so there's often a line with people where there's being a life coach, there's a one-to-one relationship, but then there becomes
Yeah.
a one-to-many. There's a difference between having a practice and having a business. And that's something that I've found as well. So I was doing one-to-one therapeutic sessions, but then I became a teacher one-to-many, teaching other people how to do it so that they can go out and give sessions as well in a good style. And so therefore you just magnify and multiply your influence or impact. So
Yeah.
what was the point for you, and how long did it take you, and what made you realize that I need to go beyond one-to-one work as a coach, and I need to start looking at this as a scalable business?
Well, I think it goes back to feeling when we're out of alignment, right? So at first when I started my business and I was doing one-on-one, every session with a client felt amazing. Like I felt so lit up, I felt so nourished, I felt so fueled, I was so in love with the work. And a few years in, I had 25 clients a week and I'm crying in between sessions because I'm so exhausted.
Mm.
And it felt like a job again, all of a sudden to me. And it was like, okay, I know that I'm supposed to be doing this work. And this has happened to me a few different points in my business. But I knew I was supposed to be doing this work, but it was like, okay, I need to shift how I'm doing it, right? So that was when I created the group and I started working with groups only. And then it became an online course. And then I hired other people to coach underneath me at some point. So it's been this whole evolution of realizing when I'm out of alignment and I'm getting out of my own lane, and when I need to hire someone and put someone in that lane, or when I need to completely course correct and shift my business altogether. So I've hit that point at a couple of different times and have either hired and restructured, or I've completely changed what I'm focusing on and scaled back in certain ways. And yeah, it's been a whole thing.
Yeah, so you work with other people to help identify and run their business. What
Yeah.
exactly is your core business?
So I would say the main program is helping soulful spiritual entrepreneurs, anyone that's a healer or a coach or a health and wellness practitioner, alternative therapist, anyone in that space to take their business to the point where it's at 10, 12,000 a month. That's really our specialty. I think that right there is the sweet spot. You're the most profitable. You can leave your job. You can quit your 9 to 5. You can be in your business full time. Usually you can be a solopreneur at that point as well. But I certainly have helped many people scale to the $1 million mark, and that's a whole nother ballgame. That's like bringing in paid advertising and hiring a team, right? And you become more of a CEO. So I found that most people in this space, they don't like that. They actually want to do their work with their clients, and just earn a really beautiful living doing that.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. And so I think I believe now I looked at your website and I believe you have a global team of quote 12
Yeah.
kick-ass women. And
Yes,
and so
yes.
and does that come from the fact, and this is something that I sort of see as well, that you get to that point where you max out your individual capacity as a one-to-one person, and therefore you need to train and hire and distribute work to other people, and so and but they're doing it in a way. It's actually one of the reasons I got into one-to-many work and training people was that I would find people would say, I went to a hypnotherapist or a past life therapist, and this is what happened. And I go, I'm not happy that my modalities are being practiced by my competitors in my town in this way because
Right.
they weren't doing a very good job. And I thought it's not enough for me to be a practitioner who does. He's a practitioner. I'm a practitioner. They go to him and they think that's what it's like. And
Wow.
I realize I need to train other people to saturate this market with good people and not have a few people who are not doing a very good job, therefore bringing down the reputation of my modality. I would not
I
stand
love
for it.
that.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I love that so much. That is such a problem with unregulated industries. And it sounds like in your space and in the coaching space as well. It's really sad that, yeah, that's the problem with the unregulated
Yeah,
space.
and there are trainings that are not that good, and people don't really know any better.
Right.
They're getting processes, systems, a way of doing it that isn't that good. They're getting
Right.
okay results. A lot of times, it's not that they're doing well; it's that they're getting away with it, and
Yes.
they think that they're doing good, but if you do good, you're going to go out of business in 5 years.
Yeah.
If you're not doing great, you're in trouble. But people,
Yeah.
again, it's that thing, it's that slow death. If you are like, my life is like looks great on the surface, I shouldn't complain. Well, you need to have some pain right up front to make a big change. And
Right.
people, they make that change into a healing space. They don't realize that you have to be really, really good to survive in the long term. And if you're not, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I see. So that really inspired me. But not everybody who wants to be a past life therapist or a hypnotherapist like me or a life coach necessarily has to go and be a teacher of these modalities. And so when you work with people who maybe they don't necessarily want to scale up to have a big business, but they do want to be able to stay in business and have a nice steady stream of clients coming through. They don't necessarily need a team under them, but they do want to be able to keep going in that practice. So is that something that you work with? Do you have different tiers of people with different goals?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, we have my main program. It's called Soul Business Accelerator, and it people come in at different stages. It's really anyone who wants to earn 10 to 12,000 a month. And I say 10 to 12,000 because that is it's a place where it's sustainable, it's doable as one person. You can do the marketing and going and getting your clients and also working with your clients. I think anything past that, you definitely need to start hiring, and then it becomes a little bit more complicated with, overhead and bringing in, like you have to sort of start running ads, and it's a different form of
Mm.
marketing to get past that, right? So that's really why I think this is the sweet spot for a lot of people.
Do you do have a tier above that, or do you?
There is a tier above that. Yeah, I do have, it's called Soul Business Scale. And because I have grown mine to, I mean, mine is a multi-million dollar company. I have actually since scaled back a little bit because I've realized some things that I don't love being a CEO. And so I
Mm.
had to scale back, and I hired someone to be more in that position so that I can move into where I love, which is the teaching and the creating content and the holding seminars and the doing these kinds of things, right? And so, yeah, there are different tiers. So someone can come in earning nothing, and I can get them to $12,000 a month. Someone can come in earning, 5,000 consistently, but they want to boost up to the $12,000 a month. And then soul business scale is for those, and it's a small percentage. I'd say it's only like 10% of the people that come into my business do want to go further and scale to 20, 30, 50, 70, 80,000 a month, which, like I said, is a whole nother ball game. And I've been there and I've done that. And there are parts of it I loved and parts of it I didn't love. So again, it's always a journey of just what feels in alignment for you. And, once you get there, I guess for me, it was like I got my business to where it was earning $200,000 a month. And that was the most unhappy I've ever been in my business. And it was like this cosmic joke of like, you finally hit this quote unquote success mark and whatever, you're the top 1%. And it was like, I am miserable. I hate this. And there was a big deconstruction period that happened after that. So yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
constantly learning what's in alignment and what's not.
Yeah, I love the fact that you've got those different tiers. And I think younger people often have this idea, bigger, better. That's what we're
I
going
thought
for.
that. That's
Max it out, grind, you
Yes,
know?
that's what I thought.
And there's a
Why?
maturity.
Why do we think that?
Well, I think it's a factor of youth, and
Yeah,
and
I
so
agree.
for me, like the majority of my clients, students, people that'll be watching this podcast are probably 40 to 60, 65. And
Yeah,
so there are people like in their 20s and 30s that are like max it out 70K, 200, let's go. And there are people who often at this as healers want to either like they've paid their mortgage, they're comfortable enough, 10 grand a month is fine.
yeah,
The big money, whatever, I might have already had, that kind
sure.
of experience, and I don't need to replicate it in this thing. There's a bit of a sea change, and
Yeah,
but the funny thing is, they can say, I don't need to be trying to get 100K a month, but I'll only get 10% of that. But if you, there's, I find people can either be like really grinding and going for a lot, or not making mistakes and not pushing hard enough,
yeah,
and can end up on zero, or
yes.
like 500 or 1,000, which is kind of not really enough to keep you in business. And then you go out of business because you don't know the marketing. You may be like, I don't need to market that much, but then they don't market enough just to do the basics. And and so do you find that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so I always say you need to be as consistent in your marketing as you want your income to be, right? And I think as soulful entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs, we want to do our craft. We want to work with our
Yes.
clients. We want to do what we're trained to do. But the other side of the coin is if we don't master or at least fall in love with the business side of things to some degree, we're not going to have the clients to work with, right? So it's like, okay, how can we fall in love with the business side of things so that we can keep it up enough so that there's some non-negotiables that we do every single month so that we at least are building our pipeline so that we're not running out of clients and then having to start over and then bringing in clients and then starting over. So I really teach consistency and just doing a few things as non-negotiables every single month to keep the marketing going, to keep people finding you, to keep your pipeline, filled. And that is like, I say 10 hours a week. If you can give me 10 hours a week, I can put the marketing in place in your business that will keep you at 10 to 12,000 a month. So it's like, but they have to keep up with that, right? As soon as they slack off, a couple
Yeah.
months down the road, they end up with no clients and they're at zero. And I think it's just making sure that you're being very consistent with your marketing. So,
I think that's a beautiful message and so powerful. I just want to emphasize it. I love that the people that I train and work with, they're really in love with the process and
yeah.
doing the sessions. And that's all they really want to do. Honestly, a lot of people I work with sort of don't care about the money. But if you don't care about but if you don't care about it too, if you're too not caring about it, you do have to fall in love with the business side. So for me,
Or you won't have clients. Yeah, you won't have
I
clients to work with.
well, here's the thing for me. I have tiers as well. I have one set of courses which are very inexpensive, and I think of them as for hobbyists. And then I have another level of training which is professionals. And so
Mm,
if you're a hobbyist, and yeah, you can make a bit of money here and there, but it's going to be inconsistent. And I love the fact that what you're saying as well, people think that clients are going to float in out of nowhere, or that they think that they will just gradually, in a linear way, build up clients as they go along in their practice and
Right.
their, over the years. And it doesn't work like that. If anything, you
No.
can have a glut of clients in the first 2 or 3 years, and then it gets harder to get clients
Yeah.
because maybe you've burnt out your town or your city, or there's new competition comes in, or there's some people are launching, and just whatever it is. And so that's something that I see. And so, what are some of the mistakes that people make? Firstly, just perceptually, in their way of thinking that they get them in trouble and mean that all they. And so, I guess part of it is real thinking that they're not really understanding they have to love the business side if they're going to be a professional and go beyond hobby.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. Everybody, and myself included, I thought, I'm going to get my certification, I'm going to put my website up, and all these clients are going to come to me. Well, and that does not
Right,
happen. I heard
right.
crickets for 6 months, and didn't. It took me, yeah, maybe 6 or 9 months to get my first paid client. So, but I think a lot of people come to me thinking it's going to be that easy. A lot of people think that they can just post on social media and they're going to get clients that way. And honestly, I've just
Yep.
never seen it work either. So I think, but I also think that people, they don't want to feel salesy, right? Like our people don't
Yes.
want to feel salesy. They don't want to sell themselves or put themselves out there because they're worried of feeling salesy. And I think that's a false perception as well. And so I really work with my clients a lot to take the word sales out of it and just shift it of being of service, right? If you want your clients to find you, you have to be of service and put yourself out there so that your clients can find you. And that's not being salesy. It's literally you putting your work out there and letting them find you. Because if you don't put yourself out there, they're not going to be able to find you, and you're not going to have clients to actually work with.
Yeah, I love this. And so a lot of people, I think they think that I'll just post on Instagram or something and I'll get some clients from the website. I mean, that might have been true 10 years ago
Yeah,
or
not
20,
now.
15 years ago. And, or I'll put an ad. When I started 20 years ago, I would put an advertisement in a printed newspaper. And,
Yes.
you know, and that worked,
I
but
know. I know. Oh my
it's
goodness.
not, it's not going to work now.
No.
So, so So I love the fact that like things change, and that's something I saw some of your messaging, and so when we have to know that but a lot of people that I see, some of my advanced professional students come in with this kind of outdated thinking,
Yeah.
or the worst thing that happens is they say, "Oh, Mark and Erica have got it wrong." The fact is, I've been doing this for 6 months. I put up my website. I've been getting like 4 clients a month. Well, I got two, then I got three, then I got four. So it's inevitably going to build. And I'm like,
Right.
well, this is the worst thing that can happen. It's like being at a casino and winning. That's the worst thing that can happen. You haven't got a good strategy. You've got lucky, and
Right. Absolutely.
and so don't think that just because that you got this is another example of you're getting away with something. You're not doing something well,
Yeah,
you
for
know.
sure. Yeah, that's so true. It will eventually tap out.
Yeah.
Unless you're getting in front of new potential clients and new potential audience every single month, you will tap out.
So what is it that used to work? So for example, and I've got my own strategies, but I think a lot of people also think, I think the first people thing that people often think of is, well, I'm not going to put it in a newspaper, but I
Yeah.
will just spend some money on Facebook. What are your
Right.
thoughts?
Well, I am very anti-funnel. I'm very anti-ad on any kind of social media until you are already earning consistent cash flow in your business. I do
Mm,
not believe that you should be spending money on ads or funnels because they are so expensive. It actually takes quite a lot. People don't realize how much it takes every single day just to get your ads shown in the algorithm.
mm,
And they also don't realize the work that happens behind it, right? Like if you really want to make ads work for you, you've got to have someone who is specializes in that area. And that's anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 a month without the ad budget. So I really teach organic strategies. Let's get you to where your business is profitable. It's earning ten to $12,000 a month organically without ads, without funnels, without having to have all of the tech and all the complicated stuff. Then if you want to scale those ads and the funnels, then come in at that play. Like I use ads and funnels in my business, but it's because I have consistent, predictable cash flow already coming in that I can reinvest back into those strategies. I've seen people lose 30 to $50,000 of their personal savings trying to invest in those scale strategies too early on without already having a proven proof of concept, I suppose, in their business. And that's when people go bankrupt and that's when they quit, right? So like my thing is let's get you to six figures and then you can decide from there.
Yeah. So if I think about healers who are beginning, wanting to maybe do 5,000 a month
Yeah.
and spending 40 bucks a day on to try and solicit clients for one-to-one therapy sessions. And what I see is that they get a lot of replies wanting low price services,
Yeah.
and they have to spend a lot of time filtering through inquiries that are really low quality.
Right.
And ultimately, in terms of the investment they make, in terms of the ad spend and the time, it if you're lucky, you'll break even, and then
Yeah, it's
all
not
you're doing, and then you're sort of paying to practice. You're paying, at
right.
least that, because comes back to the whole thing. I just want to do the work. I don't want to be in business. Well, you sort of are in business, but you're in business, but just doing it very badly, which means which means that you do get to do your sessions, but now you start resenting it because you have to go
Yeah.
through all this BS with people you shouldn't really be interacting or working with in the first place. And you're
Yes.
sort of giving it away in a way and having to integrate with social media platform that you might not like. So I
Right.
personally, not Facebook's not I never ever go on Facebook for my own enjoyment. I'll go on YouTube, but
Yeah.
Facebook, you have to pay me to go on Facebook. So, you know what I
It's
mean?
pretty
And so,
horrible. Yes.
yeah, and so there, but then you go sort of on your knees, hey, please help me in my business. And then
Right.
for me, and so like, is that an unfair? But you know what? I'm the same for my scalable business. If I'm doing a 10-day training and I'm selling two, three, $4,000 course, let's say I've got 11 people. I want one more person because I want to have an even number of course participants. I'll spend three, four hundred
Yeah.
dollars, get someone to pay $3,000 and be that extra seat that I need to fill up. I've got a 12-person
Right.
space. I got 11. Then it makes sense. So I'm not
Yeah.
bagging
Agree.
it completely, but that's to me when it works. But I think a
Yeah.
lot of people think, oh, Mark, I saw you used Facebook for your training. I'll just use it for my individual therapy practice. And that's another thing. People think it works, but they haven't understood the context and the distinctions. And so,
Totally.
what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I tell people just to steer clear of it, and use it as more of a scale advanced strategy. There are definitely strategies that I also think, people that are just starting out, they do because there is so much talk about social media. And so people do say, like, there's a lot of our industry is the same. Business coaches are just getting shadier and dodgier, and they are really great marketers and they don't deliver on
Mhm.
the back end, right? So
Yeah.
people are investing in coaching programs and they're getting burned. They're not seeing the results. And I spoke to a lady in my program and she had spent $30,000 on a different coach. And she literally got inside the program and they were like, well, in order to be successful, you need to send 200 DMs a day. And she's like, well, I don't want to send 200 DMs a day. And nobody had told her that. They sold her into this program. And, I think people post continually on social media because that's what they say. Like, well, you can get clients, but you have to post 5 times a day. And I think people do that and then they start to get discouraged because they're not seeing results. And they'll start to think like, well, maybe this isn't my purpose or maybe this isn't why I'm here. And it's actually not that. Social media is literally, I call it internal marketing, and it's designed to provide value for and keep in touch with your already existing followers and your already existing audience, right? So only 1% of your audience will ever actually buy from you. So let's say you have 100 Instagram followers. Most people will sit there and post and try and sell to all of them or whatever. They get a couple of clients and then it stops working and they're like, well, what happened? So then they change their offer or they change their work. And it's not that. It's just because you're trying to sell to the same people over and over and over again. And so you have to do what I call external marketing, which is getting in front of new potential leads, new potential clients, and sharing your work with them so that when you are showing up on like a platform such as social media, and you're making offers, you're actually making offers to new people every single month instead of just the same over and over and over again. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm really glad you're saying this because I think, it is one of those things as well where, there are people who are not doing a very good job or even a very
Yeah.
ethical job in our
Yes.
fields. And that
Yes.
really damages us. So I can think of a case study of a student of mine doing my advanced past life regression training who had a success business online coach. And he told him the same thing. Go on Facebook and message a whole bunch of people offering your services. And post a lot on your YouTube. And he is also quite young, and he's one of the few examples I can think of he was kind of sold onto that grind mentality and was a little bit, I would say, hypnotized by that approach and that coach. And he is an example of a guy who ended up deleting his media accounts and not
Yep.
continuing with the business or even giving sessions because it was a painful and negative
Yeah.
experience for him that poisoned him, not on the actual process. He loved and was good at doing the process, what I taught him, but because he misunderstood the marketing, he ended up going back to his old job, which he was not that much of a fan of. And so this is one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you, because I'm not really a marketing. I've sort of been lucky, or it's just the stars align for me. But my students need to understand that if you the dangers of doing it wrong, and because
Yeah.
and it can I've seen it take out good, intelligent people who could be good
Same.
healers. And I love the fact that you are. And so I think it's important to say this. So spending money on Facebook ads for individual sessions is out. And I love what you're getting onto now, which is just posting a lot, DMing people,
Do it.
being up there every day. Posting, then people burn out and start to resent it and be
Yeah.
unhappy. And
Yeah.
then like, what's the whole point? And so,
Yeah.
so that's another huge message. And I think people think that, and that's also something that maybe 10 years ago, when there was the competition also, that's another thing, is just so huge. And
Hmm.
even if you want to be, you can have, thousands of followers, but you still have to pay to even get it in front of them. If I got
Right.
6,000 subscribers on YouTube and you're lucky to get like a few hundred views. So
Yeah.
you have to pay to get in front of people basically. And these media companies are creating such a kind of something where we just have to understand what they're doing, and not think that they're there to help us and they're going to help do our business for us.
Which is so sad. Like I have literally, I mean, I've done live events over the last couple of years and people have told me this, like they're ready to quit. And that makes me devastated because you are here. If you have that desire in your heart and that is a calling, then that is work that you are meant to do. And it's just getting tangled into the wrong marketing that will make you actually doubt that. And that is a tragedy.
Yes.
I think the fact that this young man quit, and that probably was one of the reasons that his soul came to this planet. And now here he is in some job thinking that it wasn't right for him because the marketing destroyed him, you know? That's
Yeah.
devastating.
Yeah, I mean, he is still young enough, and it's also, he is early 30s, and my clients typically tend to be mid 30s, mid 40s. So
Yeah.
he was really on the younger scale, and that youngness made him susceptible to this mindset. And it's sort of like
Right.
also when people are selling you this dream of shoot for the moon and etc., it's too much. And I think young people are easy to be sort of seduced by that,
Yeah.
and go from an unrealistic positive to an unrealistic negative.
Yeah.
And so I love the way you've got tiers. And so what is it that then does work? And so if
Yeah.
you were to if you were and so let's I would hope that he's going to come back in a few years,
Yeah.
and or like from my perspective, maybe in the next life, but hopefully
Oh,
he can be reincarnated and reborn in this life, and be a
yeah.
bit older and wiser and less susceptible to some of the whole internet excitement that he's also a man. So 95% of my clients are women, but
Yeah.
and and a bit older, and so therefore the maturity and less susceptible to all of the man messaging that is really confusing men. And so that's all part of it. And so it's not something that I typically see. But yeah, we definitely don't want to leave these the young men behind. They really need help. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
I would say you're right. I'm kind of just sitting here thinking as you're talking, and the majority of my clients also are, I'm 44 and I started my business when I was 36. So most of
Mm,
mine are mid 30s to mid 60s. I mean, we've even had women come in and start businesses. We had an Ayurvedic medicine specialist who's 75 and she's just starting, and it's like so wonderful. And I think it's actually does them a favor because most people that are older, they don't really enjoy being on social media anyway, so they're more likely to use these strategies that actually do work off of social media. And they don't want to deal with the tech of ads and funnels. So it's almost like kind of naturally works in their favor.
Yeah, I'm 52 and I'm not born
Yeah.
native to it, and I've done it. And I'm sort of, I actually even did have a tech thing. I would do IT computer stuff in my 20s, but now
Yeah.
I can look at the back end of Facebook ads and it just is
I can't.
horrifying, you
Yeah,
know?
it's horrifying.
God, it's awful.
Yeah,
And it just gets, this was like, even like 15 years ago, it was bearable, but it just gets worse every year, just in
it gets
terms of the
worse
user
every year.
experience. And yeah, and
AI.
yeah, more of a pain to use and less effective. So let's change the topic onto what
Yeah,
does, but
does
we have
work.
to you have to know what doesn't work, but what does work these days.
Yeah. Well, I really think it's important to find a strategy that feels in alignment with you also. So my program is called Soul Business Accelerator because not everybody's going to build the same business. There is no cookie cutter strategy that's going to work for everybody. We're conscious entrepreneurs, we're soulful humans. We all have different gifts and we all have different likes, right? So I do think that there's a combination of a few different strategies that work. And so I do really take the time, my team does, to work closely with everyone who comes into our program to say, to figure out, okay, well, what do you love and what will work for you so that their marketing can feel like an extension of their work as well and not something that they have to hate and dread, right? So what I found that really works, and the marketing that I started with, and I guess my main strategy is called a signature workshop. And it started because it was something that I love to do and I had wanted to do. And I was going to personal development workshops myself. And there was this really cool metaphysical store that I hung out with. And I did Reiki there and I did yoga there. And they always had different spiritual teachers coming in. And so when I started my business as a life purpose coach, I asked if they wanted me to hold a workshop on how to discover your life purpose. And I did. And it was great. I had 25 people show up. 10 people signed into my program and I made over $10,000. And it was like, okay, that was really fun because here I am in this little studio sitting on floors with crystals everywhere and we're all barefoot and there's this energy and we're all like so into our stuff. It was this great energy and this great vibe and there was no sales involved and it was connection. And that was how the signature workshop strategy was born. It built my business to multiple six figures and now it's the main strategy I teach because most of our people love connection. They love either in person or virtual. But it's about connection and giving the people who are sitting in front of you, an experience of your work, right? So you're giving them insights, you're giving them aha moments, they're getting a taste of your work, they're having breakthroughs, and then it's just a natural inclination and a natural desire for them to want to take that one step further and come work deeper with you over a longer period of time. And so that it just works like a charm.
I love that. So I want my students to take note. Listen to what Erica said. Workshops work, they're great, and
Yes.
it's a great idea. And so I'll
Yeah.
give a little story. I uh, had an individual practice. I would do my newspaper advertisements. This was when I was living in Bangalore in India. But then I went on a trip to Thailand and worked in a wellness resort. And what would happen is on Sunday night, I would do a workshop, which was like a 45-minute, 1 hour talk at 8
Yep.
p.m. on Sunday nights.
Yep.
So 12, 15 people would come around. They all arrived. They fly off on Friday. They arrive at Sunday night. They're settling into the resort. And they all sit down and we all sit in the tropical sounds of the night are happening. We're all sitting in this beautiful outdoor space. And I will then talk about hypnosis, hypnotherapy, past lives. And they have these aha moments going, oh, I thought hypnosis is that. You mean I go into highway hypnosis when I'm driving? That's amazing. And yeah, I have dreams and I can remember my dreams. So I'm witnessing my subconscious and that's amazing. And other people are saying, you go into hypnosis when you're driving, you black out and can't remember where you were. That never happens. Mark, you're wrong. And everyone else says, no, he's right.
Yeah.
And they all talking together and afterwards they come up and say that was an amazing talk. And to me, it's like, I've given it 1,000 times, and I'm surprised that people
Right.
find it amazing. But you're able to communicate in a way that has that freshness. And so what would happen is, out of that talk, 12 or 15 people sitting around, one or two people will be booked on Monday. They would then
Yes.
they would then have dinner, and they go, "Who was that weird guy talking about hypnosis and past lives?" And they go, "Yeah, well, he was like, I mean, he was quite cool at the talk, but I don't know if I'd want to do it. And then on Monday night at dinner, oh, I went to the, had a great session. It was amazing. He was really great. If it was like, how was it? Good. Yeah. Anyway, what about your session? Good isn't going to cut it.
Right.
But if they go, it was great, it was amazing. Oh, what do you mean amazing?
Yeah.
What happened? Then they start talking about it, and then you've got 3 or 4 clients on Thursday, on
That's
Tuesday,
marketing. See, that's
and
marketing. It can be so soulful and so fun.
yeah, and then you're
It
booked out for
works.
then you're booked out for the rest of the week. And so
Exactly.
if you didn't have the workshop, and if you weren't great, if you didn't have the workshop, you wouldn't get started. And if you're not great, you're not going to continue.
Right.
You know,
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. So then there you are. You're doing the business component and you're mastering your craft as well.
yeah. And I went to that resort for a few weeks, which turned into like 3 years.
Wow.
Living in a tropical paradise in Thailand with guests from all around the world, celebrities, you know,
Oh,
uh, and Nobel Prize winners, rock stars, royals, and writers, just people, but all which is not to be like status orientated, but people with amazing life stories and soul purposes and journeys. And to be able to meet some of your childhood heroes, you know, is like
oh.
quite cool when you and like to hypnotize them and go into their subconscious mind and just
Yes.
like just the pleasure and joy of being able to do it. And if but all of that, if I hadn't done a workshop, and it's also like in order to work with the real high profile people, you have to work with probably one of their friends first, and then
Right. Right.
you get vetted. But you and also like to even be in that place, you're getting tested. Can you do an engaging workshop?
Right.
Can
Yeah.
you then can so you've got to walk you can you talk the talk and can you walk the walk or walk the talk? And so that's a part of it. But I love this. Workshops are great. And so that's something that I did. But that's something you can do, wherever you go. And so I love that. So this is a
Ah,
beautiful, fantastic idea and very practical and real. So then on a global and that now podcasts. You're on a podcast now, which sort of
I
implicitly
am.
states that podcasts
Yes.
are kind of worth doing. But what is
Yeah.
it? And that is another version. So there's like DMing people on Facebook or doing ads, but then there's this idea of content marketing, and making yourself. And does podcasts fit into that? What's your view on podcasts?
Yeah, so I really focus on external marketing. I think people need to be earning, I think in your business in the beginning, especially until you really get it consistent, 80% of what you do, I say should be external marketing. And external marketing are exactly like what we've been talking about, getting in front of new people who have never heard of you before, new potential clients, new potential audiences. So workshops do that. Podcasts do that, getting published in the media does that. And those are the three sort of main strategies that I teach. And the
Mm,
workshop is what I call a forward-facing strategy. And it's really the fastest path to cash because, like you said, your clients are right there. They're having an experience and they're going to sign up that day.
yeah,
Whereas, like when you're on a podcast, or you're published in the media, it's external marketing because you're getting in front of new potential people, but it's not as predictable, right? Like I can't tell you, oh well, or I can't say like, oh, this podcast is gonna come out and I'm gonna sign 5 clients. Like I don't know
yeah.
that, right? But it could build an email list, it gets you visible, it gets you in front of people that you would never be in front of otherwise. And so it's a great, I call it like a visibility external marketing strategy. It's great for visibility, it's great for credibility, even getting on podcasts and getting published in the media. What it does also is it boosts your credibility because all of a sudden if someone is Google searching whatever it is that you do and they see that you've been featured all these different places and you've spoken here and you've been on these podcasts and there's these articles that come about you and then they're looking at somebody else who all they've done is sit there and post it on social media and sent DMs, who's more credible, right? So they're obviously going to go with you as opposed to someone who's just been over here on the hamster wheel of social media. So it kind of kills two birds with one stone.
I love that. And that's a misperception I see people make. They think I will post on my platform, on my accounts. Podcast is about you need to get in front of, be on other people's platforms and be introduced to
Yeah,
their audience. Cultivating
right.
your own audience, the only way you're really going to multiply your audience is getting on other people's ones. And that's so huge. So that's actually why I started this podcast. It was so that I could have my graduates come on the podcast. Because the other thing is, when you try and get on a podcast, they're going to say, "Great, just send me a link to the other podcasts you've been on." And if you've never been on one, if you've got no experience, you're not going to get on one. So I give my graduates the experience
I
of,
love that.
yeah. And because it is useful, and it's also, you never know. I've had this experience recently. I had a book come out, and I literally didn't even go on podcasts for myself. I just did it for my students because the other forms of marketing I was doing were working. But then my
Yeah.
publisher said, Mark, we paid money to publish your book. We've invested in you. You have to go on all these podcasts. And so suddenly I've got to go, I suddenly end up being a podcast guest. I go on some big podcasts, 200,000 subscribers, 50,000 subscribers, get a few students or clients.
Yep.
And I also go on some tiny podcasts
Yep.
and similar signups,
Yeah. Similar
like
signups. Oh my gosh. Always.
the
Yeah.
quantity and quality are so different. You can have 20,000 views or 100 views, and you can, I've had amazing results from the ones that, I mean, it's 100 views on YouTube. It's probably, a couple of thousand on Spotify or whatever. But either way, you would really, it's surprising. So don't underestimate the small ones and don't overestimate the big ones necessarily. Of course, there are some big ones that are life-changing, but, so what are your thoughts on that?
Anytime I get asked to do an interview, I don't even bat an eye. I just say yes because you just never know. I mean, I think
Mm.
that the more people we can reach, the better. And I don't even look at numbers in all honesty. And people are kind of shocked by that. Like some of my students that are just starting out, they're like, well, I got asked to be on this podcast and they only have X amount of downloads every single month. And I'm like, I couldn't even tell. I don't pay attention to that. Like, if someone's going to invite me to be on their podcast, to me, that is like a divine calling. That is not a coincidence. And I'm meant to be on there because someone is meant to hear my message. So I just really look at it as like, it's impactful regardless of someone yes, you might get clients from it, you might not, but honestly, like we're in this to change lives. And so if me getting on a smaller podcast and one person hears this and they change their life and don't get a cancer diagnosis, like amazing. So for me, it's really about the impact and not the numbers and the stats and all the things, in all honesty.
I think that's very wise. That's something that I've discovered through personal experience. Having had, I mean, I don't think of myself as having a podcast. I think I started podcast. I think, yeah, just sort of being a guest more often. I've learned that, and so that's great. I
Yeah.
think it's very true. And so there was actually one another thing you said that speaking on stage is my jam, but I always black out the first 30 seconds on stage. So can you tell us about
Yeah.
that?
Where did you find that? That's hilarious because that is so true. Where did
It
you
was
find
it's
that?
on your website.
That is amazing. Oh, it's
Yeah.
so true.
I love
Oh
it.
my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. Well, people think that because they're afraid, they shouldn't do something.
Yeah.
And I think public speaking for me, and the workshops I loved, and that was why it became my main strategy, is because they're small and they're intimate, and people are like literally paying to be there, right? So like 8 to 10 to 25 people is all you need. They love you. The room, the energy is different. But when you're on stage speaking to 500 or 1,000 people and you're brought in as a speaker, some people are not there to listen to you. And some people are going to be on their phones the whole time. And some people are not going to like what you have to say, or they're not going to know who you are. And it's a whole different energy and a whole different vibe. And it always scares me. Like it scares everything out of me.
Yeah.
But people are like, well, then maybe you shouldn't do it. And I'm like, no, because it's not about that. I think there's a lot of times if it feels like it's something that I'm supposed to do, and it always does, and I always feel very alive and energized and so proud of myself afterwards. And it always works out really well. But the initial fear, I fear it for weeks to come. My palms are sweating right now thinking about it. And as soon as I get up there, I black out for the first minute. Like I don't pass out, but I am not there. I don't remember what I said. I don't remember getting up on stage. I usually start to remember about halfway through. And I'll watch a video back and nobody could tell that that's what was happening, but I am so terrified that I am not in my body. I have like left the room.
I,
But
that's a beautiful message. And so for me, the first time I went on a podcast, I did not want to go on it. And
right.
and I was like really not looking forward to it. I was dreading it. I went on it, and like at the end of the podcast, I was like, oh, it's sort of like going to the dentist, and then at the end of it, you're like, oh, actually, that wasn't that bad. And so
That's funny.
and actually, as a student of mine, so I knew him very well. He's a very nice guy, Simon Bowen, in the Past Life podcast, and because of that, I thought, well, actually, that wasn't that bad. And I start to see how it's actually pretty useful, and that's made me start my own podcast, but only for my own students. And
Mm,
so I've been
yeah.
going through this shift and sort of scaling up. And so I've been an individual practitioner since 2006. I've been a teacher since 2012, but then an online teacher since 2017. And since 2025, this year, I became an author, subject matter expert, and someone who has to go on podcasts himself. So I'm scaling
Right.
up. But then, and so I was like, oh, probably I'll probably have to go on, like a 1 or 2 thousand subscribers podcast, and then over the next year or two, I'll build up. And then straight away, my publisher got me on Alison Dubois' podcast. She was the bassist for the TV show Medium, and I'm like
Oh
a
my
big
gosh.
I'm a big fan of hers, and like an idiot, I said, "Oh, I'm such a fan." But I was I was so excited to be on her podcast, but I was also so nervous, and like sort
So
of like
cute.
so happy, but so dreading it. And like I was sort of, when I met her, I was sort of freaking out and starstruck and everything. And like I'd only done like 1 or 2 other podcasts, like some small ones to warm up and everything, but I was like not loose and just sort of like freaking out and nervous and like like not at my worst, basically. Looking back, I did fine. It all went, and like Allison's like so cool. I was just like, such a cool person. I had a great time, just love meeting her and was so grateful. But it was also like, like scary. And so like people can watch that and
Totally.
think, and not see that and think, oh, you were charming
Right.
and cool and everything. But I was freaking out a little bit
That
and
is
not
so
looking
funny.
forward. Yeah, but the thing is, so I love that message, and so I know that is like feel the fear and do it anyway. And so people
Yeah.
can look at you or me and like I'm also basically a shy person who doesn't
Same.
really I don't yeah, and so I don't want to get up in front of a big group of people.
Yeah.
But this
Same.
is where and that's the like you mentioned as well. Some people are like really good marketers, but they're not great
Yeah.
therapists.
Yeah.
And the ego comes in. So like I don't want to be
Yes.
an egotist who goes on talking about themselves all over the internet. I'm a
Right.
modest person, but here's the irony. That ego, that's a reverse ego. The egotism of I'm not going to be an egotist. I don't need to talk about myself. I'm afraid of that. I feel uncomfortable with it. That's your ego getting in the way. I'm doing this despite my ego. Speaking
Oh,
is, there's a selflessness in it. I don't have a podcast for me, it's for my people. I'm not going on this because I want to, it's nice to meet Alison, but it's kind of nice to not have that stress. But,
right.
but I'm doing it because of the message, because it can help other people. I don't really care if, or you get a bit of fame or you get to brag about your famous friends or something. Like, who
Right.
cares? I'm
Right.
old enough to not care about that
Right.
anymore. It's nice to be exposed. When you're younger and you get exposed to it, it's like a little bit exciting and gives you an ego boost or a lift or whatever. But you get over that over time.
Yeah.
And so now it really is just, you are doing it for the fact that you can communicate your honest message. People can resonate with that, and be grateful. I'm glad there's somebody like you, like Erica, who I was looking for all of these people and I was feeling uncomfortable with, or I didn't resonate with that past life teacher. And I saw you on this podcast and I thought that's the kind of energy that I like. And
Yeah.
therefore, I never would have had past life sessions or training, but because of you, I did. And then I had a life-changing experience. And then I
Right.
go out and like write my next book or like
Right.
do my next thing or have a set, just have one, even be a hobbyist and have some session that changed some person's life. And that's all because you got over your, oh, poor me, my fear. Oh, I'm an egotist about not being an egotist. Like, get over
Right.
yourself.
Completely. It's our responsibility as if we are a practitioner of this work, regardless of what it is, it's your responsibility to put yourself out there. And exactly right. You have to get over yourself because it's not about you, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, you're so right. I really love that. I do tell people that I frame it in a little bit of a different way, but I really love your framing. Like I'll say, not only are you doing, yourself a disservice by not putting yourself out there, but you're doing those that you're meant to impact and help a disservice as well. So it's
Yeah.
framed just differently, but the same message.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that's great. And so any other thoughts? Anything that we haven't mentioned that you can give people a tip on that they can go and act? So get on podcasts, do have workshops, speak on stages. As actually, that's one thing I wanted to mention or even ask
Sure.
you. So if as a slow way of winding down, like where do you
Yeah.
live? Where do you live and where do you work?
Ah, well, I live and work at home, based in Denver, well, in Colorado. So I live in
Beautiful.
Denver. Yeah, I have a house up in the mountains as well, so I kind of split my time between both places. But I work all over the world. I mean, probably same as you. My clients are in, I think we've had over 35 different countries and like 20 different languages come through our programs. They're anywhere and everywhere at this point.
Okay. And so if people want to work with you, can they look out for your schedule of workshops? Do you conduct workshops, and how do people connect with you? And
Yeah, the best place is just go to my website. So there's a couple of, free resources people can grab. I have a workshop training. If someone wants to do workshops, it's like $27. They can click on the button and start learning how to do workshops. My book is on there, of course. My program, Soul Business Accelerator, is on there. The course is on there. It's all on ericacarrico.com. And I run live events. So there is, I think, like a live event coming up at the beginning of September that people can join online, of course. So yeah, everything's on my website.
okay, fantastic. So actually, have were you working in person, or or do you? Yeah,
Yeah, I do a lot of I mean, before COVID, I would say, I mean, a lot of my stuff was in person before COVID. And afterwards I moved everything online, of course, and
yeah.
even the workshops, everything moved online. And then I was going through my divorce. So it took me a couple of years to start doing the in-person stuff again. But I do have like a lot of our students in April flew in and I did an in-person, like a VIP event at my home. And that was really fun. People, I think, are starting to crave the in-person stuff again. And so
Mm.
I'm starting to travel and speak. I'm going to LA, I've got New York. So I'm starting to do more in-person speaking engagements and events as well. I think I've got one coming up in Oregon and one in Las Vegas. So it's definitely happening again. And I love it. I miss it.
Beautiful. So you've got the book Awaken Your Purpose, 28 Days to Discover Your Life Purpose. And it is if people want to do that kind of workshop or be a student of yours at can you tell us just a lot just lastly a bit about how that program works and what people can expect just so that they can know, great, I definitely want to go to a website and check it out and know what they're looking for.
Yeah, Awaken Your Purpose is more the soulful kind of healing course, and the book is based around that as well. So that's more around tapping into the essence of who you are, remembering what your soul came here to do. So that's a sort of a spiritual journey that I take people on. And then Soul Business Accelerator is my business coaching course, and that is underneath the Work With Me section on ericacarrico.com.
Fantastic. Sounds great. So those links will be in the show notes. Go get Erica's book, check out her website and see which of the courses are right for you. And thank you, Erica, so much for being on the podcast.
This was so fun. Thank you for having me.